trivial example. Okay? I'm very serious. Okay? That her family was here before anyone started immigrating. So perception and when you perceive things incorrectly can cause great error. So for those who want to protest mosque, I suggest to you that their perception is wrong. Their perception of America is wrong. Their perception of American values are wrong. We have to resist the urge of allowing other people's misgivings, okay, about the behavior of certain people in America to allow to shape our perception of America. Now, historically, who shouldn't have a worse perception of America than the very ones that America kept in slavery for 400 years, the very ones that America kept as second-class citizens for another 100 years. But if you remember when Imam Warafuddin Muhammad, the person for whom this masjid is named after his work, when he came into office, he told us, don't worry about what the people say. He says, worry about what the law says. Because as long as the law protects you, it doesn't matter what the people say. And no matter how much anyone may dislike it, in the founding ideas of America is religious ambiguity. What do I mean by that? It says we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable human rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And since that language is ambiguous, it didn't say the Lord of Israel, it didn't say the Jesus, it didn't say Allah, it just said their Creator. Now I know one of the responses is going to be, Imam, the Christians, Muslims use Allah, and the Christian Arabs use Allah, and the Jewish Arabs use Allah, but you understand what I'm trying to say. It didn't define it as only those that the Muslims perceive as God. And yes, we only perceive that there's one God. But it didn't make it where, okay, only Muslims would feel they had this right. It left it open so that whomever worshiped God, liman kana yarjullah wa yawmil akhirah, right? Whomever hope is in God, that for them in America there's inalienable rights, and that is the language that formed our country. So not only is it antithetical, not only is it an oxymoron to suggest that American values are in any way anti-Islamic, it is actually un-American to suggest that. And it actually shows great ignorance of the ideas that founded this country. And now, every day, I see so much more how important it was for you and I. See, in 2 weeks, we have the Bean Pie Festival. In 2 weeks. Inshallah, in 2 weeks from this weekend. And not only do we have the Bean Pie Festival, we have the Pioneer Appreciation, where we're going to bring in the stalwarts of the American Muslim movement, and those who sacrificed, and those who pioneered. And they're going to tell their history for 3 full days, so that no one will be able to come in and write books about our history. You already have people doing it. You have people writing books who didn't live it, who didn't know any of the people who live it. Okay? And they may be legitimate Islamic scholars, but they don't know anything about 1930s, 1940s, 1950 American history. Some of them wasn't born into the 70s, in the mid 70s to the late 70s, and all of a sudden they're making statements, authoritative statements on Islam in America and Islam in the history of America. No, we're going to bring in the people who lived it, and we're going to let them tell you their story. The more I see the value of what Imam Wadathani Muhammad did to save Muslims' perception of America in the 70s, when he came out and he pointed us to the laws, he pointed us to the Constitution, he pointed us to the documents that founded the country, and said, this is what you pay attention to. Don't worry about what someone is out there saying. Don't worry about what this person is saying and what that person is saying. You take ownership of your American citizenship and you express yourself as an American in a way that pleases you. Now we know there's problems. We know there's problems. Some may ask, Imam, is this what you should talk about in Jummah? Absolutely. Absolutely. Because this is something that we're facing. Now, some of you don't see what happened in America as a sign from God. Some of you don't see that. Some of you don't perceive that. Some people don't perceive that what happened in America, here in the United States of America, as a sign from God. But if you study the Quran, and you study how Allah speaks about justice in the Quran, and you study about how Allah will not suffer the works of any of his servants in the Quran, and you study about how God says oppression is worse than slaughter in the Quran, and you look at the history of America, and you see that now people are leaving Muslim countries in great numbers. People are leaving majority Muslim countries in great numbers to flee to the United States of America. Muslims who are being killed and oppressed in their own countries are leaving them to come to the United States of America. And then you see that the once lowly, most disrespected, most dejected, most abused group in America stood up and demanded that America fulfills its promises. And that promise is that all men are created equal. Well, do you hold these rights to be, are they self-evident? Well, then, if they're self-evident, you should not hold any of your citizens as second-class citizens. And I submit to you today, sometimes I go to mosque in Houston, Texas. Not so much now as it was 20 years ago. And I'm treated like a second-class citizen. And I hear people tell me that. They're treated like second-class citizens. Okay? And you know the women are treated like second-class citizens. I was at one mosque, they put the women in the back and turned the lights off. Listen, I'm telling you the truth. They put them in the back and turned the lights off. And when I complained about it, they said, well, because we were having some issues with the air. I said, well, turn it off in the men's section too. Don't give me no flimsy excuse. No, you disrespect those women. You devalue them. Think about that. Think about coming to the house of God, getting put in a back section, in a dingy back section, that you have to go through the back door, and then the lights are turned off on you. Shouldn't happen in America. Shouldn't happen here. No. So, brothers and sisters, those who are protesting our mosque, they don't know American. They don't know America. And their claims that they're reclaiming America is just like me standing up before you and telling you I have more money than Bill Gates. So what should you and I do? They want to elicit a response from us. They want to engage us in argument and debate. And they're coming out in front of some mosque armed. So we have made it known, and we will make it known, that no concealed weapons are allowed on this property. Understanding that Texas just passed a law where you could carry a concealed gun any place. This is the Wild Wild West. Right? Well, no concealed handguns are allowed on this property. And the FBI told Imam Farouk when he went to meet with them, he said, if anybody comes on your property bearing an arm, once you've made it known that you do not allow arms on your property, they told him they will be considered an active shooter. They will be considered an active shooter. So one, if you carry weapons, they're not allowed on this property. Even if you have a concealed license and you're licensed to carry a weapon, those weapons are not allowed on this property as a rule and as a principle. Second, although people are not, for the most part, nobody is coming in the ghetto and protesting mosque. Nobody's coming in the hood and protesting mosque, because Cousin Pookie will run them right up on out of here. So nobody's coming in the hood protesting mosque. But still, if someone happened to protest our mosque, just act like they're not even there. I'm serious. Just act like they're not even there. Act like they're a gnat. And they're just an annoyance. And if anything goes down, know that just like after 9/11 and there were threats against these mosques, the Houston police came and sat outside our mosque every Friday. One lady got so comfortable she started falling asleep. She did. She would sit out here every week. We started giving her bean pie. We developed a relationship with her, everything. We had to invite her back for the Bean Pie Festival. For all those days she sat outside our mosque. Know that if anything happens, that the law of America, it's incumbent upon them to come in and defend you as a citizen. That's why they're called peace officers. It is their job. Now, are we going to just depend on somebody else to protect us? No. Don't forget your FOI training, brothers. I'm serious. Don't forget it. You know, whenever you come on this property, all of us are responsible for everybody on this property. We're responsible for their safety. We're responsible for their well-being. Let's not forget that. Okay? We should never have all the strong, able men just sitting around, not with your eyes, not looking, not outside, not on the parking lot, not in the front, seeing what's going on, keeping surveillance, keeping our children safe, keeping our women safe. We should never lose that as a community. We should always keep that. So, brothers and sisters, what Allah has done with us in America is a sign to the world. Here you have a people taken from their country by force, stripped of their religion, forced to practice another religion for 400 years. And then the descendants of those ones that were brought over here in slave ships, hundreds of years later, build a mosque from the ground up after they returned to the religion of their ancestors. And not only do they build a mosque from the ground up, they build it in the architecture of their ancestors. This is a beautiful story of human triumph. This is a beautiful story of human salvation. This is a beautiful story of the power of God in the life of those who were once oppressed. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.